speaking of where you wind up living, this story, round number 2, Special Forces Daycare. And at first it sounds like a daycare where they turn little kids into special forces, which would be fucking sick.
It'd be very cool if we could.
That's not actually the case. And before we would get into it, I was just thinking, I'm coming up on 1 year of sending my son to daycare.
What's your experience been overall?
Dude, oh,
good,
man.
bad, the ugly?
Well, it's so fucking stressful because I live on TikTok at night. I just turn my brain off like a zombie and I go through TikTok, and the algorithm, it's like, oh, she's a new mom. All the algorithm starts to show you the most horrifying shit possible that can like,
oh, perfect.
It's like, here's terrible stories from daycare. It's just like nothing but horrible things that can happen at a bad daycare and blah, blah, blah. And you get so I'm a new mom back last year because I sent him August 1st was like his first time going. And I'm just seeing all these horror stories and I'm like, oh my God, did I pick the right place? Blah, blah, blah. The day that I dropped him off for the first time, because he was like 4 months old, like he couldn't even, they can't sit up yet. They can't like do much of anything. There's a picture of me that Pat took, like I have him in the stroller at the door and I just have tears streaming down my face. And as we walked away, I'm like, am I doing the right thing? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
you start to wonder if you're a bad mom.
You start to think, and like, I was so upset. And then I get on the train to work and I'm sipping my coffee and it's the first time I've had to myself. And I'm like, this is kind of fucking sick. That is kind of sweet.
But that's so nerve-wracking. You're this person that you love and you're responsible for raising.
You're everything. Yeah.
You're everything. And you're like, hey, stranger.
What a wild concept, is it not?
It is. I think it's beyond crazy that we do this in this country.
So
but I get why it's necessary.
And then like, so this daycare that I sent him to has an app that I check it more than Twitter, more than Instagram all day long, especially when I first sent him. I'm like, what are they doing now? What are they doing now? What are they doing now? And it's just like, I'm become obsessed with it. But truly, if it wasn't for the daycare, because I held off on sending him at first. I tried to do a month to see if I could work from home with him.
Right.
This job, like blogging, podcasting, like you could maybe figure it out. And I thought, like, how hard could it be to get work done with like a baby around? It's not like he's even crawling or moving yet. It was fucking impossible.
Yeah.
Like it was impossible. I can't, like, the second I hear him fussing or crying, like your instinct is to like, I must go to him and make him happy no matter what. And that's all day long with a baby or a toddler or a kid. Like there's literally
they're nonstop. They're
nonstop. And once they start moving, they're like a injury seeking missile. All they want to do is put their finger in the sockets, put the plug in their mouth, open up whatever drawer, like slam their finger. Like there is not a single, like people look at maternity leave like, oh, that must be nice. It was the least relaxed I've ever been in my entire life.
It's pure hell.
It was magical, but it was also like the most I've ever worked in my entire life, really. So
I can't even go to the bathroom by myself now.
Yeah.
But she comes in with me. She's like, you need help. I was like, I don't, but I guess I can't go to the bathroom unless you come in with me. So she just stares at me now. That's
and like, wow. I'm really, and Con's like, I know you help your friend watch his toddler sometimes. And like, it's, you can't turn away.
Once they start moving, they have the attention span of maybe 5-10 minutes where they'll watch something on a screen and then they're moving around and everything is something, right? Everything is they're curious about. So like that's a doorknob that could occupy them for 5 minutes. And then there's your bookshelf that I can pull these books off of for the next 10 minutes. And I've been around Cash. He's all over the place. And well, he should. He's a curious little toddler. So I completely understand. So I don't know.
He's probably got ADD like his mom. So some slight issues going on. But
so you could not work from home with him. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no, like, it is nearly impossible to work from home with you. It is very, very, very difficult. And it is already really difficult for military spouses to work and find time for themselves. Because how can you keep a job when you're moving every couple of years? And your network is always breaking up. And like, as you all shift and move and blah, blah, blah. On top of that, it's hard enough with the partner. When your partner is always deploying or away in training, you're by yourself with the kids. And that's incredibly difficult. So I think that childcare is one of the most important fucking things that they could possibly have available for these troops. Like they deserve it. They earned it. Like they're doing so much for this country. You deserve it. Well, that's a fucking problem down at a tiny little base, Camp Bull Simons, in the panhandle of Florida. And there's a lot to this, but basically it's gotten so bad that members of Congress, a bunch of people on the base and former commanders of the base have written letters now to members of Congress being like, we don't know what else to do. Somebody has to fucking help us here. It's the 7th Special Forces Group. Ever since 2002, they've been deploying nonstop to Afghanistan. Like, so a lot of, and as a parent too, like it's hard to focus on the mission when you're wondering, is my spouse okay? Are they overwhelmed? Are my kids okay? Are they at like, do they have education? And that's not happening here. Basically, it's a base of about 3,000 service members and civilians. And there's about 450 kids from this camp. I'm calling it Camp BS, Camp Bull Simons area, that do not have any childcare at all available to them unless they want to do about 2 hours round trip of travel time each day to the larger base down south. And if they wanted to go to the larger base that's south of them, there is I think it's like a 4-year wait. So unless you're really family planning and know you're going to have a kid 4 or 5 years from now. So this Colonel Robert Connell, he was a former deputy commander of 7th Special Forces Group. It was back in 2016 when he learned that there was no childcare or like CDC access. And he was like, he's been sending letters to Congress. He's been working with the family groups there to try and figure it out. And one of his big complaints was this base was like what they put out there when you're moving along in your career. If you come to this next base, everything's going to be taken care of. We have XYZ, we have childcare. So these things were being promised to the troops, but then they move their whole families there and there's no childcare. It's like, what a punch in the gut that is. Though Green Beret families have repeatedly raised the issue, the base's leadership has responded with repeated promises and inadequate solutions for over 6 years. With no other options, Connell turned to Congress in the hopes that legislation can fix the issue, and he finally found a sympathetic audience. When we fail to deliver for our service members, lethality declines, quality of life drops, morale plummets, and retention rates fall, Marco Rubio and Scott wrote. Scott, what's his name?
Rick Scott. Senator Rick Scott.
Senator Rick Scott wrote. Furthermore, we have recently learned of the alarming decline in recruitment, which is to be expected when the DoD continues to fail service members. And we were just talking last week, like the Army is not going to meet, they're going to be like 30,000 service members short of their personnel goals in the next 11 weeks. And who the fuck wants to join or stay in when you see how these troops are being treated? Like these special forces guys are some of the hardest working, highest training, most deployed, and their families are not getting cared for.
Right.
Like, what the fuck?
Not to mention the amount of time and effort and money spent to train these individuals. They're not just like, hey, we just showed up. You know, there's years of training before you're going to be admitted to one of these units. So you're taking one of your most valuable assets, these soldiers, and you're just basically saying, sorry, we can't figure this out for you. And it's crazy to me because, don't get me wrong, I appreciate what goes into having a daycare. You know, all the different technology that you're talking about now with the different apps and the things that you probably are required to have to function as a daycare. But I have to imagine there's a building somewhere on this base that they could convert into a daycare if they really wanted to. And they got the funds necessary. Maybe that's a bridge too far for our military.
Here's the problem, Cons. Here's why they're saying they won't build that on Camp Simons.
Okay.
There's a bombing range near the installation where the 96 Test Wing experiments with advanced munitions. So it's near, kind of near, but again, there is a bombing range near the camp, not even near it. And, but one of the retired Special Forces officers that used to be there, Colonel Stu Braden, said the range is rarely used and that Camp Simons has barracks, a chapel, and a shopette where soldiers and their families regularly hang out. So the base is using this range as an excuse, but everybody there is like, well, we already hang out around here all the time with our kids. So what's the fucking problem? Why can't you build something right off base or
right
change?
Next door?
Yeah. So he, as only a military colonel could put it so eloquently, it is complete bullshit about not allowing anything in the range area, Braden said. It's a tough spot for families at Camp Simons, as evidenced by the more than 500 service and family members who showed up to a video teleconference held by an action group earlier this year. When you can get people after this COVID pandemic, when you can get people to still join a Zoom, over 500 people, they give a fuck about something.
Yeah.
They're fucking pissed. He said, I have met and heard hundreds of stories about these younger enlisted having to make financial and career decisions due to a lack of a CDC. Like, so maybe I want to stay in, but it is like, people don't talk about how when you have young kids, how hard that is on marriages and partnerships and your career.
Not to mention this deployment schedule. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. I'm almost certain though that the special forces community has the highest divorce rate because of the deployment schedules.
Do I want my, and like you do, like, I know when Cash was really little and Pat was working, he had this movie coming out, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He helps manage that brand and blah, blah, blah. And he was really busy. And I the bulk of it was falling on me. And I got really resentful. And it was like, I can't do my stuff. I can't do my job because I'm with them all the time, blah, blah, blah. And like, it really strains shit. And then it's hard to focus on your own job when you're angry inside and blah, blah, blah. Like, and as like a leader, like the personal lives of your troops always bleeds over into their work. It
absolutely affects their mental state.
It
and if they're not focused
in one way or another, and they have to be. So like, this seems like maybe a silly story about daycare, but like,
it's not.
It's a huge fucking deal.
When you think about it, you don't have to be, really deep into the military world to know that the missions that these guys are going on, they need to be mentally very focused. So if they're worried about their childcare at home when they're deployed halfway across the world somewhere and they can't actually do much because they're not there, that is just wrecking them mentally. So this needs to be This needs to be fixed. And also, like, you know what? If you're going to give me these excuses and you can't fix it, well, then move this unit to a different base.
Figure it out. Like, now that's what I hope in December when they have to answer to the Armed Services Committee in DC. Yeah. Like, I hope that they present them with like an ultimatum, like fix it now. Because some of the options they floated, we're going to build a mega center at this base that's south of here, but that would be a 2-hour round trip. It still wouldn't be enough for all the 450 something kids that have no childcare during the day. It's crazy. So I can see people dreading wanting to go there. And these are our special forces. Like, they're the ones definitely putting themselves on the line. Like, fucking figure it out. There's no more end to the story really, except fucking figure it out. God damn it. Can't Bull Simons. I'm sure ZBT will be the difference maker there. Did you hear what ZBT said? We better fix it and get a daycare right away. Anyways.